Hey, Sasha here. Today I want to talk about access token management for the Salesforce Marketing Cloud REST API and how easy that is with the SSJS library. Let's go. If you want to use the Salesforce Marketing Cloud REST API from inside your Salesforce Marketing Cloud instance, for example, on a script activity, you probably already have set up a server-to-server integration with client credentials and grant type. The next step is to create an access token via SSJS. The way how I see it's been done most of the time is go to Google, search for something like get your access token. You go to one of those websites, you scroll down to the example code, take the example code and put it into your editor. The next step is to replace the client ID, the client secret and the token endpoint with the data provided by your server-to-server integration. Now you could use the access token to proceed with your code as desired. However, there are some problems with this. The first problem is that your client ID and client secret are absolutely exposed in your code. So everyone who has access to this code will be able to see your client ID and client secret. Furthermore, if you are using a version control system such as GitHub and you're exporting your code to this Git repository, your client ID and client secret will also be clearly visible inside this repository, which creates a risk that your API credentials may be misused in the future. The second problem is that each token you generate is reusable for 20 minutes, and as outlined on the official documentation, you should not request a new token for every API call you make. This means that you need to store the token. If you go back to the sample code, you will see that you need to extend your code to handle this token storage. You could create a data extension, store the access token inside the data extension, and retrieve it before you request a new one. You will need to handle expiration time, and the simple code can become more complex very quickly. There are better code examples, for example the one from Razine, which exactly addresses some of these issues. Ivan has made a very comprehensive article on his blog, and I will put the link to this article in the description below. If you scroll to the bottom, you will get his full code example. And when you're copying this full code example, you will see how much more complicated it actually gets. The previous sample code has been extended to over 130 lines of code. And besides that this is a really great solution, it does not tackle two problems. The client ID and client secrets are still exposed in the code, as well as you have to figure out a way to store this code for reuse in the future. This is where the SSJS library comes in handy. The SSJS library from Email 360 is addressing all of these issues. If you have not installed the SSJS library yet, you can find a how to install the SSJS library on this YouTube channel. If we now go back to our editor, we're starting with a fresh SSJS code by loading the core platform functions, the SSJS library itself, and we initialize the logger on the level of debug for debugging purposes. In order to load the Salesforce Marketing Cloud API, all we need to do is set a variable with new SFMC API to initialize the Salesforce Marketing Cloud API. Now we can call the function getToken from the Salesforce Marketing Cloud API and output this in the console with a debug message. We start with log debug for the debug message, and then we're loading the function getToken to retrieve a new token. Before I execute the code on a cloud page to generate the token, I want to quickly show you that the SSJS library during the installation process is also creating you a data extension called Salesforce Marketing Cloud API token, which will hold every token you create with the token and the expiration date. If we go now to the page and refresh the page, you will see that we actually generated a token. If we go back to our data extension and refresh the records inside here, you will find that we also have created an Salesforce Marketing Cloud access token. In order to show you that from the next time you try to retrieve a token, it actually goes from the data extension rather than requesting a new token, I'll go back to the editor and quickly change the debug level from our logger into trace, and I'm removing my extra debug message because it's not required if we're running trace, as getToken already outputs some information on the level of trace. If we refresh the page, you will see that it says using the data extension token. To demonstrate that if the token has been expired or has been deleted, I just empty out the data extension itself and refresh the page. And now you can see that it actually does an token request and retrieves a new token. If you are executing multiple API calls within your one script activity, this library will not just only take the token from the data extension, but will reduce the processing time further by using the internal cached token as well. I can showcase you that by clearing out the data extension again, going back to the code editor. Instead of retrieving one token, we are retrieving multiple tokens at the same time for the purpose of this simulation. We're going back to our cloud page. And when we refresh now the cloud page, what you will see is that the first time we're actually retrieving a new token, but then we used the catch token. If you refresh the page one more time, we will use the data extension token and then continue using the cached token. That will reduce the processing time from your script activity if you are using multiple REST API calls inside your script activity itself. So there you have it. To retrieve an actual REST API token with all the bells and whistles we discussed earlier, all you need to do is to use a REST API, and instead of using 130 or more lines of code, you're reducing the line of code down to 15, but have the full functionality of storing the token, refreshing the token, and you're not exposing any credentials inside your code itself. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.